The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning, interrupting every broadcast, every screen, and every communication device on Earth simultaneously. Director Marcus Rodriguez of the Global Space Initiative stood frozen in his office, watching as ethereal symbols danced across his holographic display before resolving into words in every human language. To the species of Earth, the Galactic Tribunal has deemed your civilization ready for evaluation. You will send 3 representatives to the coordinates provided within 14 planetary rotations. This is not a request. Within hours, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Marcus watched the heated debates from his position near the chamber's entrance, already knowing they would choose him as one of the representatives. His reputation for crisis management and diplomatic innovation made him an obvious choice. The council eventually selected 3 representatives: Marcus Rodriguez, the level-headed diplomat, Colonel Olivia Zhang, Earth's most decorated tactical expert, and Dr. Johannes Weber, humanity's leading xenobiologist. They would carry humanity's hopes aboard the Stellar Envoy, a ship hastily constructed following specifications included in the alien transmission. "This feels like walking into the lion's den," Olivia remarked as they prepared for launch. Her dark eyes scanned the ship's systems with military precision. "We're flying blind into unknown territory." Johannes adjusted his instruments, his weathered hands steady despite the pressure. "Perhaps, but what choice do we have? This is the moment xenobiologists have dreamed of for centuries." Marcus watched Earth shrink behind them as their ship engaged its new drive system. The familiar blue marble became a distant point of light before disappearing entirely as they traversed distances that should have been impossible. Their destination materialized before them, a massive structure that defied human architecture, a cascade of crystalline formations that seemed to flow like frozen mercury. The docking procedure was automatic, their ship guided by unseen forces into a vast hangar filled with vessels of countless designs. As they stepped through the airlock, they found themselves facing a delegation of beings that challenged human comprehension. Their escort, a towering figure with iridescent skin that shifted like the northern lights, introduced itself as Zyxtal, emissary of the tribunal. "Follow," it commanded in perfect English, though its mouth never moved. The halls they walked through were filled with representatives of countless species. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated, and still others seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. But Marcus noticed something disturbing: the way these beings recoiled from the human delegation, the whispers that followed them. They entered a vast chamber where thousands of alien representatives sat in tiered rings, rising so high their tops were lost in darkness. At the center, a panel of 9 beings sat on elevated platforms, their forms obscured by shifting veils of light. "Humanity," the central figure's voice resonated within their minds, "you stand before the Galactic Tribunal. I am High Judge Verthax. We have observed your species since you first harnessed atomic energy. Today, we decide your fate." The air above them filled with projections, Earth's history played out in devastating detail. Wars, environmental destruction, genocide, and countless atrocities. But also moments of triumph: disease cured, poverty overcome, ancient enemies becoming allies. "Your species," Verthax continued, "develops at an unprecedented rate. Your adaptability is unmatched in our records. This makes you uniquely dangerous." Marcus stepped forward. "With respect, High Judge, that same adaptability has allowed us to overcome our greatest challenges. We learn from our mistakes." "Do you?" another judge asked, their form rippling like heat waves. "In mere centuries, you've advanced from primitive combustion engines to quantum technology. Your weapon development outpaces your wisdom. We've seen this pattern before with catastrophic results." Olivia's military training couldn't hide her growing anger. "You're afraid of us." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Verthax's light dimmed slightly. "Fear is irrelevant. We are responsible for maintaining galactic stability. Your species represents an unacceptable variable." "Then help us," Johannes pleaded. "Guide us, share your knowledge." "That is not our way," Verthax responded. "The tribunal has reached its decision. Earth will be quarantined. A barrier will be erected around your solar system. No travel or communication will be permitted beyond it. This quarantine will remain in effect until humanity proves it can control its aggressive tendencies." "How long?" Marcus demanded. "Previous quarantines have lasted between 500 and 10,000 years." As protests erupted from the human delegation, Marcus noticed movement in the shadows. A smaller alien, its body composed of shifting geometric patterns, caught his eye. It pressed something into his hand as it passed a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. Not all agree with the tribunal, a voice whispered in his mind. Find us in the dark between stars. Before they could respond, they were escorted back to their ship. As they began their journey home, Marcus studied the crystal while Olivia and Johann sat in stunned silence. They think they're protecting the galaxy from us, Olivia finally said, her voice hard with determination. Instead, they've given us a unified purpose. Marcus nodded, the crystal warm in his palm. They judge us by their standards, their pace of development. They don't understand that restrictions don't contain humanity, they challenge us. What do we tell Earth? Johannes asked. The truth, Marcus replied, watching the stars blur past. That we're not alone, we're not welcome, and we have work to do. The tribunal thinks they're locking us away, but they've just given humanity the ultimate motivation to prove them wrong. None of them could have known that this judgment would spark a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy itself, proving that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its adaptability, but its unflagging determination to overcome any obstacle placed in its path. 10 years after the tribunal's judgment, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The barrier encompassing the solar system shimmered like a vast soap bubble, a constant reminder of humanity's imprisonment. But instead of breaking human spirit, it had forged it into something stronger. Marcus Rodriguez stood at the window of the Unity Tower in New Geneva, headquarters of the newly formed Human Defense Alliance. Below him spread a city that embodied humanity's response to isolation, a seamless blend of terrestrial and extraterrestrial technology, much of it reverse-engineered from the mysterious crystal he'd received a decade ago. Director Rodriguez, the council is ready, his AI assistant announced. The holographic figure of Aria, Advanced Response Intelligence Assistant, materialized beside him, her form a deliberate reminder of their technological progress. The council chamber held representatives from every nation, a unity that would have seemed impossible before the quarantine. Colonel Zhang, now general, stood at the central podium, her presence commanding as ever despite the silver threading through her hair. The Helios project is ready for its first test, she announced, bringing up a holographic display of a massive installation built in Earth's orbit. Dr. Weber's team has finally cracked the quantum signatures in the barrier. Johannes Weber had aged considerably in the past decade, but his eyes still held the same enthusiasm. He stepped forward, gesturing at the complex equations floating in the air. The crystal Marcus received wasn't just a message, it was a key. The geometric patterns within it match fluctuations we've detected in the barrier's structure. Marcus touched the crystal hanging from his neck. Its pulsing had grown stronger over the years, and the message hidden in its quantum structure. Finally decoded, a new voice added. Dr. Priya Patel, head of xenolinguistics, joined them at the display. It's not just coordinates, it's a complete map of dissident movements within the tribunal's territory. There are others out there who oppose our imprisonment, entire civilizations who have faced similar judgment. The room erupted in excited murmurs. Marcus raised his hand for silence. What about the other project? General Zhang nodded to a figure in the shadows. Commander Victor Reyes, head of their covert operations, stepped forward. His cybernetic eye glowed softly as he projected new data. The quantum entanglement network is operational. We've successfully established communication with 3 different resistance groups beyond the barrier. They're calling themselves the Shadow Concordat. Marcus remembered the geometric-patterned alien from the tribunal chamber. According to their new allies, that species, the Nexus, had been developing ways to circumvent the tribunal's authority for millennia. They weren't alone. The Auroran Collective, beings of pure energy, had been secretly aiding quarantined species for eons. The Jinn, a species of silicon-based crystalline entities, provided crucial technological insights. Our allies confirm what we've suspected, Reyes continued. The tribunal's power is built on suppression. They don't guide species to advancement, they contain those they can't control. We're not the first to be quarantined, but we might be the first to break free. Dr. Weber brought up new schematics. The Helios project isn't just about breaking the barrier. It's about understanding the fundamental forces the tribunal uses to maintain their power. Every quarantine barrier contains the same flaw, a quantum resonance pattern that, if properly amplified, could shatter their entire network of control. Which is exactly why they fear species like us, General Zhang added. We advance too quickly, think too differently. We find solutions they never considered because we're not bound by their millennia of tradition and established scientific doctrine. Marcus studied the displays, each one representing years of human innovation spurred by necessity. The quantum drives that now powered their ships were more advanced than anything the tribunal had shown them. Their neural interface technology, developed to communicate with their alien allies, had revolutionized human understanding of consciousness itself. "We're ready for the next phase," he announced. "But remember, this isn't just about breaking free. We're going to change the very structure of galactic society." Priya brought up the latest communications from their allies. "The Shadow Concordat agrees. The tribunal's time is ending. Too many species have suffered under their doctrine of control through isolation. When we break free, we trigger a chain reaction. Every barrier falls." "And then," someone asked from the council. Marcus smiled, touching the crystal again. "Then we build something better, not a tribunal that fears change, but an alliance that embraces it. Every species brings their own strengths, their own perspectives. Together, we're stronger than any one civilization could be alone." The crystal pulsed warmer, as if responding to his words. Through their quantum network, he could almost feel the approval of their alien allies. The Nexus had called humans catalysts, the species that would finally break the cycle of fear and control that had dominated galactic society for millions of years. "Begin the final preparations," he ordered. "In 1 month we make our first test of the barrier. Whether it succeeds or fails, the tribunal will know that humanity won't accept their judgment. We're not just fighting for our freedom, we're fighting for every species they've ever tried to contain." As the council dispersed, Marcus remained, watching the barrier shimmer in the distance. The tribunal had meant it as a prison, never realizing they had instead created an incubator for revolution. Humanity had spent 10 years growing stronger, building alliances, and preparing for a war that would reshape the galaxy. The crystal hummed with increasing intensity, its light synchronizing with similar crystals held by their allies across the galaxy. The time of judgment was ending. The time of change was about to begin. The Helios array hung in space like an artificial constellation, its quantum resonators aimed at a single point in the barrier. On the command deck of the HAS Prometheus, Earth's most advanced warship, Marcus Rodriguez watched the final preparations through the quantum glass viewport. "All stations report ready," Arya announced, her holographic form flickering with streams of data. "Quantum synchronization at optimal levels. The Shadow Concordat confirms their systems are aligned." General Zhang stood at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. "Defense grid is active. If the tribunal responds, we'll be ready." "They'll respond," Commander Reyes said from his position at operations. His cybernetic eye pulsed as it processed incoming data. "Our Nexus allies report increased activity at all major tribunal outposts. They know something's coming." Dr. Weber and Dr. Patel worked at the science station, making final adjustments to the quantum resonance frequencies. The crystal around Marcus's neck hummed in harmony with the massive array outside. "Begin the sequence," Marcus ordered. The Helios array came to life, each resonator building up energy in a carefully calculated pattern. The barrier before them shimmered, ripples spreading across its surface like waves on a pond. "Quantum resonance reaching critical threshold," Dr. Weber announced. "The barrier's molecular structure is beginning to destabilize." Through their quantum entanglement network, they could feel their allies across the galaxy, watching, waiting. This wasn't just humanity's moment. It was the beginning of a revolution that had been brewing for millennia. The barrier flickered, then began to dissolve like mist in morning sun. Through the growing hole, they caught their first glimpse of true interstellar space in a decade. "We did it," Dr. Patel whispered. But their triumph was short-lived. Space itself seemed to tear open as massive ships emerged from quantum space, tribunal enforcement vessels, their crystalline hulls bristling with weapons. "Multiple contacts," General Zhang shouted. "They're charging weapons." "This is High Enforcer Castle of the Tribunal Fleet," a voice boomed through their communications. "Your species has violated quarantine. Lethal force is now authorized." Marcus stepped forward. "This is Director Rodriguez of the Human Defense Alliance. We reject your authority and your judgment. We are not alone." As if on cue, new ships appeared, the geometric patterns of Nexus vessels, the energy constructs of the Auroran Collective, the crystalline forms of Jin warships. The Shadow Concordat had honored their alliance. You dare, Castel's voice trembled with rage. You conspire with other corrupted species. We dare to choose freedom, Marcus replied. We dare to question why a body that claims to protect galactic peace rules through fear and isolation. How many species have you imprisoned? How many civilizations have you stunted? The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The tribunal ships were powerful, but they faced something they'd never encountered, a coalition of species fighting together, combining their technologies and strategies in ways the rigid tribunal had never imagined. The Prometheus's quantum weapons, developed from combining human innovation with Nexus technology, tore through tribunal shields. Auroran energy beams danced between ships, disrupting their systems. Jin crystals absorbed and redirected enemy fire. But the real victory came from Dr. Weber's station. Director, we're detecting massive quantum fluctuations. The barrier, it's not just breaking here. The resonance is spreading through their entire network. On their screens, they watched as quarantine barriers across the galaxy began to fail. Species that had been imprisoned for thousands of years suddenly found themselves free. Impossible, Castel's voice was frantic now. You don't understand what you're doing. The barriers are necessary without them. Without them, species will have to learn to coexist, Marcus interrupted. To grow together instead of in isolation. That's what you really fear, isn't it? Not that we're dangerous, but that we prove your entire system of control is unnecessary. Through their quantum network, messages flooded in from newly freed species. Some had been quarantined for so long they'd forgotten there was a galaxy beyond their barriers. Others had been developing their own methods of resistance, waiting for a chance to break free. The tribunal fleet began to retreat, their rigid tactics failing against the combined creativity of multiple species fighting as one. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. They'll regroup, General Zhang said, come back with everything they have. Let them come, Commander Reyes replied. Every moment they spend fighting us is another moment for more species to break free, more allies to join our cause. Dr. Patel's station chimed with incoming transmissions. We're receiving requests for contact from dozens of newly freed species. They want to join the alliance. Marcus touched the crystal, feeling its warmth. The geometric alien he'd met so long ago had been right. Humanity wasn't just fighting for their own freedom. They were the catalyst for a transformation that would reshape galactic society. Send word to all our allies, old and new, he ordered. The age of isolation is over. We don't need a tribunal to tell us we're worthy of the stars. We'll build something better together, a true coalition of species, each bringing their own strengths, their own perspectives. As the Prometheus moved through the broken barrier, Marcus watched Earth's sun dwindle behind them. They were heading into a galaxy of both danger and possibility, where ancient powers would resist change and new alliances would be forged in the crucible of conflict. The crystal pulsed with the combined hope of countless species. The tribunal had feared humanity's potential for change. Now they would learn why. 3 months after breaking the barrier, the Prometheus led a fleet of ships through the swirling clouds of the Helix Nebula. Each vessel represented a different species, their designs as varied as the civilizations that created them. What had started as a rebellion was becoming a revolution. Marcus stood on the bridge, studying tactical displays with General Zhang and Commander Reyes. The map showed hundreds of green dots representing freed worlds, growing daily as more quarantine barriers fell. The tribunal is falling back to their core systems, General Zhang reported, highlighting a cluster of red indicators. They've abandoned 40% of their territory in the past month alone. Not abandoned, Commander Reyes corrected, his cybernetic eye pulsing as it processed data. They're consolidating. Our Jin scouts report they're building something massive in the Centaurus cluster. Dr. Patel rushed onto the bridge, her usual composed demeanor shaken. Director, we've decoded more of the tribunal's secure archives. You need to see this immediately. The holographic display shifted, showing ancient star charts and records. The tribunal isn't just a governing body, she explained. They're the last survivors of the First Empire, a civilization that ruled the galaxy over 1,000,000 years ago. Dr. Weber joined them, adding his own findings to the display. Their quarantine protocol wasn't about protecting galactic peace. It was about preventing any species from reaching their level of advancement. They've been systematically stunting the development of every civilization they encounter. But why, Marcus asked, though he was beginning to understand. Fear, a new voice answered. A Nexus representative, their geometric form shifting like liquid mathematics, materialized on the bridge through their quantum network. Fear of their own history. The First Empire nearly destroyed itself through internal conflicts. They believe advanced civilizations inevitably self-destruct. So they appointed themselves guardians, General Zhang said bitterly, deciding which species get to advance and which need to be contained. Their control is breaking, Commander Reyes noted. Not just militarily, every species we free learns the truth. Their authority was built on lies. The ship's quantum sensors suddenly blared an alarm. Arya's holographic form flickered urgently. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, tribunal ships emerging. The view outside the ship erupted with light as space itself seemed to tear open. But these weren't ordinary tribunal vessels. These ships were ancient, their designs more organic than geometric, powered by technology that made their sensors scream in protest. The First Fleet, the Nexus representative whispered in awe. They've reactivated their ancestral weapons. All ships battle formations, General Zhang commanded. The Coalition fleet moved with practiced precision, each species taking positions that maximized their unique capabilities. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. The First Fleet's weapons bent space itself, creating gravitational shears that could tear ships apart. But they faced a combined force that adapted with stunning speed. Human quantum weapons merged with Auroran energy fields. Jin crystals refracted gravitational attacks while Nexus ships predicted and countered the enemy's tactical patterns. Each species' weakness was covered by another's strength. They're not just fighting us, Marcus realized as he watched the battle unfold. They're fighting the future itself, a future where species grow together instead of apart. Through their quantum network, he could feel the determination of their allies. Species that had been enemies while imprisoned were now fighting side by side. The Tribunal's greatest fear, cooperation between advanced civilizations, was becoming their undoing. But victory came at a cost. Ships were lost, crews sacrificed themselves to protect their allies. The First Fleet's technology was devastating, each shot carrying enough power to vaporize a small moon. They're targeting the Prometheus, Arya warned as a massive energy beam lanced toward them. 3 Jin ships moved to intercept, their crystalline hulls absorbing the blast. They shattered like glass, but their sacrifice gave the Auroran vessels time to counterattack, their energy weapons bypassing the ancient shields. Director, Dr. Weber called out, I'm detecting massive power buildup in the First Fleet's flagship, the energy signature. It's similar to what we discovered in the crystal. Marcus touched the crystal at his neck, feeling its warmth. The same technology they used to imprison us. Could be turned against them, Dr. Patel finished, if we can synchronize our remaining resonators with the Coalition fleet. The plan spread through the quantum network instantly. Each ship adjusted its quantum signature, creating a complex interference pattern. The crystal around Marcus's neck pulsed in harmony with thousands of others across the fleet. Space itself seemed to ripple as the combined energy of dozens of species focused on a single point. For a moment, everything hung in perfect balance. Then reality cracked. The First Fleet's ancient ships found themselves caught in their own gravitational weapons, their shields failing against forces they themselves had unleashed. Their rigid, unchanging tactics couldn't adapt to the combined creativity of multiple species working in perfect synchronization. As the battle ended, Marcus looked out at the scattered debris of ships both ancient and new. The cost had been high, but they had proved something fundamental. The future belonged to those who could adapt, who could work together, who could see beyond the fears of the past. Send word to all Coalition forces, he ordered. The Tribunal's secret is exposed, their ancient weapons revealed. We're no longer fighting just for freedom, we're fighting to ensure no species ever faces imprisonment for the crime of advancement again. The crystal hummed with the combined determination of a galaxy awakening to its potential. The storm wasn't over, but with each battle, each alliance, each shared victory, they moved closer to a future the Tribunal had never imagined possible. The Centaurus cluster burned with the light of 1,000 battles. The Tribunal had retreated to their ancient seat of power, a massive artificial star system known as the Eternal Nexus. Here, where the First Empire had begun its reign millions of years ago, the future of galactic civilization would be decided. The Coalition fleet gathered at the edge of the system, ships from hundreds of species forming patterns that would have been impossible months ago. The Prometheus, battle-scarred but unbowed, took its position at the head of the formation. Final reports coming in, Commander Reyes announced, his cybernetic eye glowing as it processed the tactical data. Over 300 species have joined the coalition. Even some of the tribunal's own enforcement fleets have defected. Marcus studied the massive structure before them. The Eternal Nexus was a marvel of engineering, a dozen stars arranged in a perfect geometric pattern, harnessed to power the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. Their power source is also their weakness, Dr. Weber explained, pointing to energy readings. The quantum resonance pattern that maintains the artificial stars, it's the same fundamental frequency they used for the quarantine barriers. Can we use that? General Zhang asked, already planning the attack. Dr. Patel nodded, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. The crystals we carry, they're not just communication devices. They're fragments of the original control system, scattered by ancient rebels within the First Empire itself. The Nexus representative's geometric form shimmered with excitement. Our ancestors were among those rebels. We've waited millennia for this moment, preserving the knowledge, waiting for a species with the courage and innovation to use it. A transmission cut through their planning. High Judge Verthax's image appeared, but now they could see past the veils of light. The being before them was ancient, its form a blend of organic and mechanical parts that spoke of millions of years of technological evolution. You cannot comprehend what you risk, Verthax's voice echoed with the weight of eons. We have witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Advanced species inevitably destroy themselves. It is a pattern as old as the stars themselves. You're wrong, Marcus replied, touching the crystal that hung warm against his chest. You've spent so long preventing what you fear that you've become blind to other possibilities. Look at our fleet, hundreds of species working together, combining their knowledge, their strengths. A temporary alliance born of necessity, Verthax dismissed. Once the threat is gone, you will turn on each other. It is inevitable. Nothing is inevitable, General Zhang countered. Humanity has proved that. We've faced our own near extinctions, our own brutal wars, but we've learned, adapted, grown. The very qualities that made you fear us, Commander Reyes added, are the qualities that prove you wrong. We change, we evolve, we find new ways forward. Verthax's form seemed to darken. Then you leave us no choice. The Eternal Nexus was built with safeguards. If we cannot maintain order, we will reset the galaxy itself. All will return to a simpler state, ready to be guided along a safer path. The artificial stars began to pulse with increasing intensity. Energy readings spiked off the scales. They're initiating some kind of quantum cascade, Dr. Weber shouted. The reaction could strip entire systems of advanced technology, maybe even alter the fundamental constants of spacetime itself. But Marcus smiled, feeling the crystal pulse in perfect harmony with thousands of others across the fleet. You've forgotten something crucial, Verthax. We're not alone, and we never were. Through the quantum network, energy flowed from ship to ship, species to species. The crystals they carried weren't just fragments of the First Empire's technology, they were keys to something greater. Now, Marcus commanded. Every ship in the Coalition fleet fired simultaneously, not with weapons, but with focused beams of quantum energy. The crystals amplified and directed the power, creating a resonance pattern that matched the frequency of the Eternal Nexus itself. Space rippled as two massive powers collided. The Tribunal's attempt to reset the galaxy against the combined will of hundreds of species, choosing a different future. The artificial stars flickered, their perfect geometric pattern disrupting as new frequencies interfered with the ancient controls. Verthax's image distorted, showing genuine fear for the first time. What have you done? We've chosen a different path, Marcus answered as the Eternal Nexus began to transform. Not control through isolation but strength through unity, not fear of advancement but celebration of diversity. The artificial stars didn't collapse as the Tribunal had intended. Instead, they rearranged themselves into a new configuration, their energy redirected by the combined knowledge and technology of hundreds of species working in harmony. Where the Eternal Nexus had been a weapon of control, it became something new, a shared power source, a symbol of cooperation, a beacon for a different kind of galactic civilization. Verthax and the remaining Tribunal members were taken into custody, not for punishment, but for rehabilitation. Their ancient knowledge would be preserved, but their fear of change would no longer dictate the destiny of other species. In the days that followed, representatives from every coalition species gathered in the transformed Nexus. The Human Defense Alliance became part of something greater, the Galactic Concordat, a union of civilizations dedicated to shared growth and mutual protection. Marcus stood with his team, watching ships from across the galaxy come and go freely through the newly established quantum gates. The crystal at his neck had grown quiet, its purpose fulfilled. "They feared us because we represented change," he said to his companions. "They never understood that change was inevitable. The only choice was whether to face it alone or together." General Zhang watched a group of young officers from different species training together, sharing techniques and technologies. "We've started something unprecedented. There will be challenges ahead." "Good," Commander Reyes said with a smile. "Challenges are what we do best." Dr. Patel and Dr. Weber were already working with scientists from a dozen species, combining their knowledge in ways that would have been impossible under the tribunal's rule. The crystal gave one final pulse before going dark, its energy becoming part of the new network that connected the member worlds of the Concordat. The age of isolation was over. The age of collaboration had begun. Humanity had answered the tribunal's judgment not just with strength, but with something far more powerful: the ability to bring people together, to forge connections where others saw only barriers, to believe in a future where diversity was not a threat but the greatest resource any civilization could possess. The stars stretched out before them, no longer a prison but a promise. The galaxy was entering a new era, and this time no species would face its challenges alone.